Hey guys, how's it going? Danny Wood here. Figured I'd put a couple thoughts down here in a little video for you. Just crazy time in the world right now, and I was just getting done with my morning run. I'm down in Pensacola, Florida. Sun's coming back up behind me here. It's a beautiful morning down here, and I figured share some thoughts on a few things that have kind of come to mind, and maybe you'll get some value out of it, and it'll help you kind of make some thoughts too. We can kind of share some ideas. So we decided last week to leave Columbus. Megan and I were walking probably around this time last week in Columbus with the dogs, and I kind of said to her, I was like, hey, we're gonna have a break in action, if you will. For me, I'm in my third year of dental school out of 4, and she's up in Columbus working, and we both can't do either of that. And I said, what's the point in sticking around if we don't have anything to do up there? So I said to her, it would be hypocritical of us not to do something if we have the freedom to do it, because that's something that we always talk about when we put together kind of like our ideal life, is having the freedom and the mobility to do whatever we want to do. And so on Monday we packed the dogs up, packed the car, took a suitcase, grabbed clothes, and she had found an Airbnb. It was so cheap, $50 a night for an apartment down here, and gas being $1.50 a gallon, almost $2 a gallon in some places. It's so cheap. It was such a good deal. We were like, hey, let's quarantine somewhere warm versus in the ghetto of Columbus. So that was kind of our thought process, and just stopped halfway in Nashville. That was 6 hours, and then spent the night there, and then another 6-hour drive after that. So our thought was, hey, we got the freedom to do things. First time in my life where I haven't had to do anything, and so let's take advantage of that time and get out and do something. And so we did that. So we're enjoying our time down here. We've spent a lot of time together, and spent time with the dogs. The dogs are loving the warm weather, so it's been a lot of fun. And they're just so quiet around here. Hardly anybody's out, so get out, get her steps in, and get her workouts in, and all that good stuff, and still have connectivity to what we need to do online. So just a few things I wanted to, first of all, just a lot of fear out there right now, I'm sure. And Megan and I have talked at length about this, and I've talked to a couple of people that I've been in contact with this past week, that this is such a great opportunity. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of fallout from businesses and whatnot that are going to be put at risk through this, and people's health. And so don't want to be insensitive to that, but there's going to be a ton of opportunities coming down the pipeline in quite a few industries, and I personally am excited about that, because I position myself to be ready for this. And so I want to talk about 3 things kind of in my life that are that are kind of important to me, or areas of the industry that I've been in that I think, and share some thoughts on how they're going to be impacted. So the first one is the educational system. Like I said, I'm in dental school. I'm in my 3rd year of that. And then the second industry is the industry that many of you know that I love the most, is real estate, buy and hold real estate. And then the third one is the hockey business, which I haven't been playing for a couple years, but still involved in it, in the training clinics and private lessons and group training space. So I'm still kind of involved in that industry, if you will. So the first one, education. I think this is the best thing that's probably happened to education, because it's going to force them to get up to the 21st century. People that kind of close to me know that I've had a bit of beef with the education system for some time now due to its inefficiency. and it just is learning in the classroom is low yield, and everything pretty much can go online, and so it should, so that you can learn whenever you want. And so yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Education is gonna have to really reinvent itself, I think, after this, and the demonetize the system, bring the price down, because it's completely overinflated for what you're getting. Because at the end of the day, I consider education an investment, and actually, out of anything that I'm invested in, I've always said it's the poorest investment, and that's for somebody like myself who's going to be a dentist at some point, which is usually a pretty good career. So that's kind of my thought. I'm hard on education because I think it's just been completely overinflated in terms of its value and its time efficiency. And the other thing is, too, teachers. How many? My mom's a teacher, and that's why I'm going to talk about it. Are they going to be needed anymore? I mean, this is, maybe some of these, the downward pressure on the system is that they can start going more virtual, and that kind of thing. So, just something to think about. I thought about it and how the impact might be on my mom and her position moving forward. And then, so the second thing is real estate. Crazy time right now, for buy and hold, or any person in real estate. And I don't think we'll see the full effect of the market probably until 6 to 12 months down the line. I know I can speak personally how I'm handling it. All my tenants are good people. 2 of them are in construction, and they haven't been affected at all. And so, I've communicated with them, and my word, my statement was this: anybody who has been up to date and hasn't missed a payment or been late or used up any grace period on their rents in the last year, I'll work with them. Anybody that's had papers filed on them, a 3-day notice in Ohio, that's what we call it, if they've been late on their rent. If they've had papers filed on them, or they've been late outside the grace period, morning, then they're not going to have as much wiggle room, to make things right. But I'm definitely going to help them out, whether that's relocate them to a different apartment building that is maybe in their price range. So that's just the kind of thought that I'm having, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on that. And there's a lot of landlords out there that are a little bit lost right now. But the main thing is getting the information, getting the education out there, and learning as much as you can about the rules. And every state's going to be different. And I'd be scared if I was invested in California, New York, some of these, out on the West Coast too. I think they've got some eviction delays, or they're not, they're basically the government owns your property in those states, and that is scary thought. And that's why I would never invest in those areas myself. I like landlord-friendly states with good rules there. So that's just kind of my thought there. And this kind of brings me to another point, which is, how many people we're going to start seeing as a result of this, that mobility is so critical. Being able to get up and leave, kind of like we did, like Megan and I did. That's going to be, I think, my generation, 30 and older, they're going to start thinking about mobility. Do they need a house? Or is it better to rent? The impact on the real estate side of that. We're going to go to more of a sharing environment where people are sharing mansions versus buying them for themselves. And some of that I've used Airbnb. I've hosted on Airbnb, and one of my apartment units is an Airbnb, and that thing has done really well. And I like the Airbnb model because it gives me usually a 4x return on a regular rent, and you also get people coming in and out of town, usually for extended periods of time for different jobs. And Airbnb handles the payments and all that good stuff. But yeah, there's obviously pros and cons to it. And look at this little guy. I had no idea. Let's see if I can turn this around. I don't know if you can see this guy. This little lizard. He is so small. Gosh. Pretty neat. All right, see you, buddy. Yeah, thinking about like how Airbnb, the pros and cons of Airbnb and short-term rentals. Sometimes, yeah, you get a dud and it doesn't work out. But for the most part, it's been good to me. It's been a great model for me, and I like the model a lot. So I have a little difference in when it comes to regulation of rents and that type of thing. So yeah, just something to think about. Maybe some of you guys have some real estate and love to know how you're going to handle your tenants at this time. So yeah. And then the third thing that I want to talk about was hockey. Crazy right now with the leagues being closed down, and it's going to be interesting to see how people, how the teams survive. A lot of these teams, especially minor pro teams in Europe and in the minor leagues of the U.S., they work on a shoestring budget as it is. They're kind of going from week to week, and they really depend on the gate money from games to make payroll. So how's that going to affect the industry long term? There are obviously some teams that are wealthier than others that have cash reserves, but a lot of these teams aren't going to have that kind of cash reserve, and the players' seasons have been cut short. So there's some money issues there that I've heard about already. But the opportunity in that industry is pretty huge for a young player, I think. My opinion is that young players are going to be pushed. Maybe they're playing college and they wouldn't have played pro, and the job market's not as good, and they have an opportunity to maybe step into a pro league. And the owners are actually, I think, have a lot of leverage. If they have a decent cash reserve, they have actually got more leverage, because guys that are young who can take less salary are going to find their ways onto rosters, and the guys who are on maybe 2 or 3 year contracts, who are heavily paid and maybe sometimes a little bit overpaid just because of their experience, are going to see some downward pressure on them, I think, from the ownership groups, who just are like, hey, we're going to renegotiate your contract, or they file bankruptcy and start a new entity. So yeah, interesting with hockey. So I think, if you're a young hockey player and you're listening to this, you're gonna have a ton of opportunity if you can be flexible, especially if you're playing junior hockey or if you're playing collegiate hockey right now. It might be a good time to think about your options and start talking with some teams. Obviously, they don't know when they're going to start up, but when they have a better idea, you could get some pretty good leverage on the market and step into a position that maybe you wouldn't have stepped into before at the height of the market. So yeah, that's kind of the hockey thing. And as always, Megan and I when we walk the dogs, we kind of talk about who people in our lives, the assets and liabilities, and anybody that's fearful right now, or is hiding away, and we stay away from that. We stay away from that mindset. We're thinking growth, we're thinking expansion, and we wish everybody the best of luck, with their health. We stay healthy. That's a big priority of ours, to keep our immune system good, work out a lot. And so with that, we're trying, we wish everybody the best, but we know there's going to be some things coming down the pipeline, and every day we kind of have a little State of the Union talk, which is fun. People that know me well, I like a quick State of the Union address. So we've been spending time every day just kind of talking, like, hey, what are the opportunities out there? What industry is going to be affected? Where's there going to be some market space that we could potentially step into? All those things. And if you're thinking that way too, I'd love to hear from you, because I do think it's going to be crazy time. The next, even just the next couple of years, when businesses try to restabilize, and acquisitions are going to be there for the taking. And so I take this time, and I always take my downtime to listen to a bunch of podcasts of people who have been in the game for a long time and get their knowledge and think some ideas, and then I try and pass those along to people that want to listen to it. Some people don't, and I get it. So yeah, great opportunities coming down the pipeline. Just take a look at that. It's so nice in the morning down here when the sun comes up. Remember too, you have a ton of options. If you can be flexible, there's some great opportunities for you to take advantage of some cheap vacations. And obviously, don't be stupid about it. We weren't stupid about it, but we're actually more quarantined down here. There's less people around here than there were in Columbus or would be in Cincinnati if we had stayed up in Ohio. Plus, we'd have to be dealing with the rain and the cool temperature. So we're getting our vitamin D. The dogs are having a blast, and thanks for listening to this. Hopefully you got some value out of it, and we can exchange some information and some ideas. And if you want to give me a call, I'm around. So reach out to me, and maybe I'll do a couple of these videos while I'm down here if people like them. I'm not usually a big camera guy, but everything's online now, so maybe I need to get better at that. So yeah, best of luck to everybody. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys.